Welcome everyone to the 2018 Preschool Mindfulness Conference. I'm very excited to welcome our next guest, one of my favorite authors, Rana DiOrio. She is the author of What Does It Mean series, including What Does It Mean to Be Present, What Does It Mean to Be Kind, and many other books, which maybe she'll share with us throughout this talk today. But she's also the CEO of the March 4th company, which does lots of work around mindfulness, including publishing books and materials for teachers and parents to use. So we're very lucky to have her here. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm honored.
So I know you say children are born present and then they become less present as they grow up. So can you tell us a little bit more about why that is and why it happens?
Yeah, I think children come into this world, perfectly present. I mean, they're perfect beings that are in touch with their reality moment to moment. And then they get exposed to their caring adults and the nexus of people around them. And they are shaped into different, mindsets and personalities. So for example, as parents, when we're talking to our children and looking on our screen, we're teaching our children to not be present. When we're constantly multitasking, we're teaching our children not to be present. When we overschedule, all these things kind of chip away at the perfection of presence that children come into the world. So I would say, first and foremost, teachers and other caring adults need to model presence. And it's one fact that I came across in the last year, Helen, is that when a person multitasks, they erode their IQ by 15 points at each thing they're doing. So you think you're getting things done well, but that's actually, the math and the science doesn't support that conclusion. So, if we can stop procrastinating or overscheduling or multitasking or, being on our screens when we're having conversations, then our children will learn by our example.
That's so interesting about the multitasking and the IQ, but you see it everywhere, people on their phones. I was in a restaurant the other day and everybody was on their phone. I couldn't believe it. I was like, nobody's talking to each other.
Or read some of the emails that you've sent while you're trying to do other things. You'd be like kind of horrified at the caliber of the quality of the content that went out the door. I wanted to tell you a quick story. So this Christmas was a very special one for my family. I have 3 children, a 14-year-old who turned 14 on Christmas Day, a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, so 2 girls and a little boy. And we have a tradition where the children will get up earlier than the grown-ups, and they'll separate all the packages into piles. Okay, so then they wait for us to wake up and make coffee and be present. But my 9-year-old was sitting before his pile of presents, and he had his hands folded in his lap, and he said, "My mindfulness teacher told me that if I savor every present and open them slowly, that I'm going to have a better Christmas." And we were all stunned. So, kudos to you for providing this forum and this summit for all of these teachers to see, but it works. I'll tell you, my crazy 9-year-old who zooms around the room like an electron and an atom was present, and he was grateful, and it was really special.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. So Rana, I know you have lots of different strategies and ideas, tools that teachers can take back to the classroom, or maybe parents can use at home. So could you go through some of those with us?
Sure. And these are just very, very practical and actionable. That's what I want it to be, and accessible. So I want to start with something that I learned about 5 years ago. Dr. Deek is one of our authors. She's a neuroscientist, and she teaches teachers how to teach. And she synthesizes all the latest research and distills it into teaching techniques, okay? And the book in our collection that she wrote is Your Fantastic Elastic Brain. It's about a growth mindset, so I recommend you take a look at that. But I went to one of her teacher trainings when we were writing this book together. And she was telling teachers that, change the rules of engagement in your classroom such that you're not asking children to raise their hands. At the beginning of the terms, there's an opportunity now. Change it so that you point to a student to give an answer and have a Mickey Mouse pointer. She had a Mickey Mouse pointer, or your own magic wand that you got from Ollivanders or not. But the idea is, instead of asking for a raise of hands, the students know that at any given moment, you're going to be calling on them. And what that does is nobody can check out. The gunners who are always raising their hand and the other kids are drifting off into space. Nobody can do that, because at any given moment, you're going to be calling on them. And then once an answer is presented, that moves from short-term memory to medium-term memory. It's all neurologically based. And it's more easily committed to long-term memory because of that simple teaching tool. And so there's engagement and there's presence in everybody. And there's also, it cultivates a community of acceptance, because not everyone's going to get it right. And that's great, because guess what? Children learn more from making mistakes. That's another point in the book, than they do from getting it right. So that one simple thing, don't ask for a raise of hands. You call on your students so everybody's present and engaged.
Okay.
Another thing that I've used quite effectively, I'll just be completely honest, Helen, and to all your teachers, I am much more comfortable in a boardroom full of executives than I am in a classroom. Like, I'm terrified of students, and I applaud all of you teachers who do it every single day, especially with my kids who are super high energy, and honestly, I'm eternally grateful to you. But I go into classrooms a lot, and I have to overcome fear to do that. And one thing I've noticed is a really great thing for me and for the students is starting off with some yoga.
Right.
And yoga, as I'm sure you're aware, is a 5,000-year-old discipline that connects the mind to the body to the spirit. And all of the asanas have a systemic effect on the body. So there are sequences to pacify, and then there are sequences to electrify the central nervous system. Well, so what I will do is I'll come into the classroom. I'm nervous, of course, and get into a comfortable seated posture and just start some breathing exercises. So, with eyes closed, so you get kind of comfortable and block out some of the other sensory perception, and you inhale. You inhale the things that you want, and you exhale the things that you don't want. So something simple like inhale joy, and exhale sadness, or inhale love and exhale hate, and inhale peace and exhale anger. And you can obviously tailor this to whatever you're working on in your classroom, and it's it's rhythmic and it's slow, and children are visualizing the things they want in them and visualizing the things they want to eschew. And then you can do some simple movement. I mean, you don't have to be a yoga instructor to do this kind of yoga in your classroom. Another books in our collection is, well, I'll tell you, first of all, the kids get mindful right away. They're so present once they get their wigglies out and they're grounded and they're in their bodies. And it's one thing to do it in a classroom, but I've also had great success with this in a busy bookstore. And the event coordinators like, that has never happened ever in the history of a reading when the kids actually sat still and listened to a story. But another book in our collection is Yawning Yoga. And this, and it's beautifully illustrated by Diana Mayo. It's written by Lori Jordan. And this goes to a pacifying sequence. So if you have, and ends in Shavasana, which is, the corpse pose where you go to sleep. So if you have nap time at your preschool, this would be a great resource to read. The other thing that is part of yoga is chanting. So all the old yogis chanted before, the sound of Om before they started the practice. And there's actually, a physiological basis for that. And it is chanting makes the body vibrate, even on, a molecular level. And things that are static cannot change, but things that are vibrating have the possibility of change. So even introducing that idea to your preschoolers that, let's vibrate, let's resonate together, and, and move into our yoga practice and into our story time or whatever else you're trying to do. Yeah, I have other ideas.
Yeah.
And again, speaking of vibration, because we have a theme going. Another book that I read in the last 10 years, just one thing I just wanted to say, I read all these books in my 40s. I'm a life learner, always ravenous about adult nonfiction. And then what I did was I took the essence of the book, the salient concept that, I was happy to learn in my 40s, and said, wow, wouldn't it be great if we distilled it to its essence and allowed preschoolers to learn this concept. So that's pretty much the basis of every book in my collection. So I read a book. Yeah, right? We're gonna give them a head start. I read this book called Power versus Force, and it's written by Dr. David Hawkins, who's an MD and a PhD. And among other things that he does in the book, he stratifies all of human emotion on a vibrational scale from, the dark emotions are low vibration, and then the bright, positive emotions are high vibration. And it came as a surprise to me that the highest vibration, the most resonant emotion is gratitude. Not love, not kindness, but gratitude. And so that got me thinking, and how this could apply to your classroom. Wouldn't it be great if your students kept a gratitude journal, or at home, you take up the gratitude journal? And I realize that, 3-year-olds are not going to be writing sentences, but they can draw pictures, or they can, collect totems and make it a scrapbook, so that they are, connected to what it is that makes them grateful. And so in light of that book, I approached Sean Achor, who is a New York Times bestselling author of The Happiness Advantage and Before Happiness, 2 nonfiction books that I read in the last decade. And he's done years and years of research on happiness, and that happiness causes success and not the other way around, which is a common misconception that success breeds happiness, and it's actually the other way around. So we approached him, oh goodness, did I bring that book up? Yes, I did, to write a book. Okay. And his book is Ripple's Effect. Right. Okay. And it's illustrated by Cecilia Rebora. And it's about the power of positive psychology, and that how a smile can change the dynamic of an entire, in this case, Shark Tank. Right. But the point is that, he talks about how gratitude that leads to happiness actually rewires your brain, that it creates new neural pathways. And I mean, how great to start with being present and then, foster that into gratitude and happiness for our children. I have a few other suggestions, Helen. So, another idea is to, plant and tend a garden. I mean, if you don't have access to outdoor space, you can cultivate something indoors, and, and use that as a springboard for, being with the earth and being with plants and noticing how they're growing and evolving makes a child very present. And then you can use that foundation to talk about other things. Like we have another book in our collection that is Sophia's Dream. And it's it's an environmental theme. And at the end of it, she's a little activist. and she, her call to action is to, to take care of Mother Earth. And you can get into those themes with planting and gardening. The other way you could take that is to talk about farm to table. We had this book written because my children thought that milk came from a refrigerator, and that was really alarming. So we commissioned The Cow in Patrick O'Shanahan's Kitchen, written by Diana Pritchard and illustrated by Heather Devanoff. And this is funny. The humor is always a good thing. Laughing is
that's great. So many kids really do have no idea where food comes.
No,
even adults, right?
No, it's alarming. But this is a farm to table theme, and all of our books have free lesson plans that come with them, and are free downloads on our site. So planting, tending a garden, either indoors or outdoors, is something that makes children very present. Listening to or creating music together is another simple thing that teachers can do with their students. And it's funny, I'm witnessing how my children are developing relationships to music in real time. I have a focus group at home, but I can remember as a child being really aware of how music made me feel. And certain music, made me feel happy, and other music made me feel, like I needed to dance, and other music made me sad. But like to have the gift of music and making those connections at a young age, and as a teacher, you can really shape, the tone of a classroom with music. So I think that's another great opportunity.
Having background music going on while they're doing other things, or
it's like I've presented in a lot of other classrooms, even though it terrifies me. And I'm always amazed when you walk into a classroom and there's classical music playing and everybody's doing what they need to be doing. Just like, it's just mind blowing, but it works.
Yeah.
A couple other ideas, and this happened in my children's preschool classrooms, is to get and care for a pet. And I know not all classrooms are able to do that, but even if it's, fish, just the presence of being in a classroom it's extraordinarily impactful, and teaching children to care for something other than themselves. Same themes with, having a garden, having to be aware of the needs of another living being. I think, and my son's classroom had a snake, which really freaked me out. And hamsters, and it was a jungle in there. But just as simple as, a fish tank can really be transformative in a classroom. The other thing that I've started implementing in my own home is aromatherapy. And one of my friends recently gave me a diffuser, like an electric diffuser, it's kind of like mists and you can put essential oils in it. And it's the same thing with yoga, with the asanas. Each scent has a systemic effect. So, it can brighten you and make you more attentive, or it can pacify you, and you can experiment. And if you don't have the resources for an electric diffuser, even just simply, a beautiful vessel with the diffusing sticks. And it's really, you can put it in the reading corner, maybe.
We put it in Play-Doh before, like made lavender Play-Doh, stuff like that.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
The tactile station. That's another great idea, Helen. Having, I can remember when, first it was the squeezy balls, and then it was the fidget spinners. But I like the idea of making, Play-Doh or something that's again, it's very grounding and very present. Another thing you can do in your classroom is, and I should have brought this up with the farm to table theme, but, doing some sort of a cooking or preparing of something. Like in my son's classroom, they went to great lengths to plant lettuces and things for, a salad. So for the wrap up, right before we had a frost in San Francisco right before Christmas, if you can believe that. Yeah, whoa. But they picked all the lettuce beforehand. They had a salad bar, where everybody, they took their labor, and they shared together. But making a food and smelling the fresh produce, or if you have access to being able to cook something, it makes children very present. And then in getting to enjoy it, right. Let's see. I have a couple other ideas. Actually, you know what? The one thing that I'll end with this, Helen, then I'll answer any other questions that you have. And that is, and we do this in my home every night. We eat dinner together as a family, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but I think people can understand that when you have 3 kids that are in, myriad activities going in, as many directions, if not more, it's kind of a big deal when everyone can sit down and have a meal together. So we do that, but we add one other element to it, and that is we do what we call rose and thorn. And what that is we go around the table, whether we have guests or not, from the youngest to the oldest, and we each talk about what the rose of our day was, like the highlight, or the thorn of our day, the prickly part of our day. And in so doing, everybody is present and listening to the person and giving them real-time feedback and empathizing with them. And it's very precious, and it's a very special time for our family. And I encourage people to try it at home. We have the last book I wanted to talk about in our collection that I thought was relevant to this audience is What Does It Mean to Be Kind? And this is all about, the golden rule. And with Rose and Thorn, it's about empathy and treating others the way you would like to be treated. Listening attentively and responding with, active listening and responding appropriately. But this is a book you might enjoy for your classroom as well.
I love that.
Those are the ideas I had.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. The rose and thorn, just how much connection you get within your, family and visitors, and then it's like a tradition, right? So it goes with you wherever you go, and it's something your kids will always remember, probably pass on to their own kids. So I really
the nexus around my family knows too. Like, so when my mother visits, she's ready to participate, or we have friends over for dinner, it's special.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing all those books, because teachers and parents are always looking for great books to help their kids. So we'll put links to all of those books. We have a page with all the authors' books. So, and we'll post all the books that Rana told us about as well. She mentioned there's lesson plans with each book as well, which is for a teacher is like, yes, you can just print it out, and we all know we're a bit short of time and things, so that's great. And the lesson plan for the book will be posted on underneath this video as well.
Right. I forgot to show that one. So this is the book we were talking about. What Does It Mean to Be Present? This is a great one to read at story time. Helen, I also included a song. There was an original composition that went along with this book, which might be an interesting additional tool.
Yeah. So we have the song and the lesson plan. You can just grab today if you want. There'll be a button somewhere on the screen where you can grab all that stuff. So the last question I just wanted to ask you is, you came from a very different background. You were a lawyer and working in corporate world. So what inspired you to start writing all these amazing books and help children all over the world, really, by sharing all these different authors and stories.
Yeah, well, thanks for that question. It really was, when I became a mother, I really wanted my vocation to align with my values. And it happened quite organically. It wasn't intentional. I first wrote, "What does it mean to be global?" to explain to my then 4- and 5-year-old children the enormity of the historical milestone of President Obama being elected to office. There was no tool for me to explain what diversity is and the benefits of diversity and how important it is. And then soon thereafter, I wrote, "What does it mean to be green?" Because I was nagging my children to shut water off and use the second side of the page and wear pajamas again because they just took a bath and they're clean. And I realized the reason why I had to do that was because they didn't have a construct.
Right.
Why are we doing all these things? So that book presented the construct. And then I realized that there was a business opportunity, that, content that catalyzed conversations between parents or children and their caring adults, was something that the market needed. So I founded Little Pickle Press back in 2009, and we changed our name last year after we licensed our publishing rights to Source Books.
Right. Okay. Wow. It's amazing, very inspiring journey as well. So thank you again, Rana, for all your contribution. And I'm sure there's so many ideas everybody wants to run back and try out in their classroom tomorrow, and also lots of books that people will be checking out the library or ordering to use in their classroom. So thank you once again for joining us. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for bringing us all together. Namaste.
Thank you.